Okay, this is Moshe coming to you from Israel in the Galilee on the 8th of March. It's 10 o'clock in the morning. We're having a beautiful day here. Right now we're looking at 62, high is 68, no rain, sunny. We get free hot water from using the solar. Tomorrow about the same, and then it starts to get warmer on Sunday. By Monday we hit 71. By Tuesday we hit 80, and it stays 80 for a while and then goes to the 70s. But we're getting lows in the 50s at night, so it's still cold at night. The house gets cold, but that's going to go away pretty soon, and the crops are flourishing. I mean, we had several more rains, so we can't yet do anything with the roof. We had a rain yesterday or the day before, not a long rain, but a rain. And that's all it takes to get the roof wet again. And, my wife has plastic covers on the furniture where it leaks and pails. And, it's really annoying. And the landlords in Israel, by and large, normally don't fix your house. You got to fix it, or if you go to them and try to invoke the legal stuff with a lawyer and say, fix it, blah, blah, blah. They say, no, move out, I'll break the lease and just leave. That's what they do. That's illegal, but they tend to get away with it because the courts are very biased towards the landlords, which are normally richer than the people that are renters. There are rare exceptions. We knew one guy that was a churchianity preacher that was trying to set an example. He had plenty of money. So he was going after the landlords with big lawyers and beating them. But what happened, he told me, is that he wound up losing money with the legal fees compared to what the courts gave him. So it's a loser for the people. That's part of Netanyahu's Israel. It was never this way until Netanyahu came, the curse of Israel. Okay, so let me jump into the chat and try to race the people so I can get my postings up there before they do. And I don't know if I'm going to make it or not, but please wait to post in the chat till I get my posts up, please. I'll be quick. Almost there. Thank you for waiting. I'm done. You can post all you want in the chat. No problem. And since we're a Bible-believing site, I'm going to do some praise. The Lord was showing me, I think, those orange glasses I had, so-called blue light blockers, weren't really doing much good. So I believe the Lord was showing me just put sunglasses on, and they stop the UV and some of the blue light, not the high ranges, which they say are dangerous, but some people say it's not, and I have no idea. I'm not a doctor. I'm not an expert. I have no idea, but these tend to relax the eyes. Blue is very relaxing, so I'm going to try this for a while. Okay, there is no God like Jehovah. 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 There is no Messiah like Yeshua. 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 Okay. So, let me see what we got in prayer requests, and then we'll jump in. I don't think we have any. No. One thing that I want to bring up with you guys is this. It seems that there's possibly some sort of an effort to destroy any credibility on the internet without shutting the internet down. And I'll explain what's going on. It's called artificial intelligence. Now, a long time ago, I learned something, and the Lord revealed it to me, and that's not... What do I got on here? Hold on, I got to get something off my dress. It's not terribly difficult to understand, but unclean spirits can go into things that are alive. They could go into an animal. They could go into a bug. They could go into a person. I don't know if they could go into a fish, probably. I've never had any experience, but they can't go into inanimate objects, okay? They can't go into a table or a chair or a glass, okay? Now, they could go inside a house, but they're not in the house like they would be in a person, you know what I'm saying? They don't inhabit or inanimate objects. Inanimate objects don't host unclean spirits. It's nothing that happens, okay? You're imagining if it happens. So there's no... A computer is an inanimate object. It moves just like a motor in a car. Can a demon go into a car and reside in the car engine? No, we can't go inside a car engine and stay. It's a living thing. Could it go into the interior of a car where a person goes? Yeah. Any place you could walk or crawl into, you know, they can go into as well. But remember with the pigs, Yeshua said to them, what's your name? And he said, Legion, for we are many. So you see, they were able to compress themselves inside one person. I don't know how many there were, but there were probably a massive amount. So they can go, from my own experiences, they could go into a bug, a fly, a cockroach, something like that. All right? I wouldn't expect this to be a norm. But going into a dog or a cat is something that's not so unusual, okay? And you can kick them out of these things just as well, all right? So AI and the demons is extremely blown out of proportion, okay? Your spell checks are AI, and, you know, can demonic people that serve the unclean spirits program the AI to do certain things? Probably. That's human doing. That's not unclean spirits, you know, running around and doing it. But yeah, they probably could. But what the AI really is doing is it's enabling people to make posts and videos on the internet. When the video is made, they call it a faceless video. What they do is the AI apparently scours the internet and finds images and, you know, illustrations of various sorts and puts it together with text which the person could approve, and they make the text into a voice. And you could pick many different voices as to who you want to speak in tons of different languages. So what they're doing is they're making videos that are basically rehashes or conglomerations of other videos. There's absolutely no new content, okay? And they could make garbage videos reproduce. And people, I think, that are attracted to this are using the monetization of, you know, various places, the Facebooks, Instagrams, whatever. And they're trying to get massive amounts of volume and make a couple of bucks. Now, for people that live in poor countries, if they could muster up $400 or $500 a month, US dollars, they're okay. All right, they can survive. So for them, it's worth working every day for this, because they're probably never going to make that in their own country. And they could be young kids in high school or something like that. So they'll churn out gazillions of these shorts to try to, you know, they might make $12 a month on, you know, one video, and then they might put 400 or 4,000 literally up in a month. And they use catchy things like, if you go here, if you go to Bolivia, be careful, this might happen, where they try to tempt you to watch the video. And they prefer shorts because people say, oh, what the heck, it's 2 or 3 minutes or 1 minute, I'll go watch it, right? And they can make a lot of money on that. So what it's doing is it's flooding the internet with trash. See, these faceless videos and this AI posting shouldn't be happening, because it's flooding the internet with worthless, regurgitated information. And it's flooding it, I'm telling you. And you can find AI places for free, or they'll charge you, if you want to make something like, you know, 25,000 videos a month, they may charge you $20, $30. Okay? And it's not just videos, it's postings. They'll write postings for you, text and stuff like this. So and I don't know why they're like it. YouTube seems to be favoring them now, and other places are favoring them. And, you know, people buy apps and programs that could create numerous channels on various social media, and they, you know, it's just a joke. I think if prophetic time allows, it'll stop, because people are going to gravitate away from it. They want to see a talking head, okay? They don't want to see, you know, cartoons, you know, anime, or, you know, stuff like that. Anyway, I think that's interesting because it's growing at an alarming rate. And it's not, I think the purpose of this is really to flood the internet with garbage and get people away from the internet. And then that pushes you to mainstream media, which doesn't use AI. So you know, subscribe to Facebook from a big media station, or Instagram, or Twitter, or wherever you want to go, and your account or your channel just displays posts from them, so you don't get any AI. And that's where the real brainwashing is going to come from, not from AI. It's going to come from redirecting you back to mainstream media, and because they're going to show up in search results by keywords above and beyond any of these AI places. So people are going to get drawn back to government-controlled media. That's what's happening. And then they leave news out, and they give you their versions of news and stuff like that. Okay. Enough on that. So, you know, it's going to fail for them because people just don't want that kind of content. It's just junk. Okay. Yeah, it's just regurgitating existing content and conglomerating it from different sources and stuff like that. All right, moving along. Let's talk. What we're going to do today is we're going to talk about Israel's current wars, okay, and fulfillment of Bible prophecy specifically geared to the land promise. Now, you got to watch yourself with land promises because there's a portion where God says, and this applies to our days now, I will give you the land that your fathers had, okay? Now there's a land covenant that's found in Genesis 15. I'll go and read it to you. And I don't think that this land covenant is going to have a fairly immediate fulfillment. And I'll get into it with you as soon as I get there. Wait, something's getting weird on my iPad. Hold on. I think my jacket was pressing it. What verse is it? That's a good question. Okay, here it is. It's Genesis 15:18, verse 18. In the same day, Jehovah made a covenant. Now, the word in Hebrew is a brit. Now, they refer to the New Testament as Brit Chadashah. Chadashah is new, and Brit is covenant. It's a covenant. God doesn't break covenants. Now, this covenant doesn't seem to have any conditions in it either. Now, there's a school of thought, it's called amillennialism, and it's a false doctrine thing. And it says that all of God's covenants are conditional. Well, they're not. Let's take the rainbow in the sky as a covenant that he's not going to flood the earth again. When there's rain, he puts his rainbow in the sky, his bow. And that's to the animals and the people. And there's no conditions put on the animals or the people for that, okay? So that completely, and it's called the Noahic covenant or the Noah covenant in their parlance. So that completely destroys this theology that all covenants have a condition. That one absolutely doesn't. Okay? What's he going to tell the animals? If you bring your sacrifices and offerings to the temple, I won't give you any more flooding. And it's absurd, you know. Amillennialism says that Yeshua is reigning now. He's not. Psalm 110:1 says, "Sit thou at my..." The Lord said to my Lord, "Sit thou at my right hand until I make your enemies your footstool." God's Jehovah, Father God Jehovah is reigning. And Yeshua is sitting in his right hand. And Yeshua will reign when he comes back for the millennial reign. Okay? Not till then, really. All right? Now, he's an intercessor for you, and he does a lot of things, but Father God Jehovah is in the process of making Yeshua's enemies his footstool. So who's reigning? Yeshua or Father God Jehovah? Father God Jehovah. So they say Yeshua's reigning now, and any day now he'll come back and burn the universe up and we'll go up to heaven. Well, that means there's so much unfulfilled Bible prophecy, you could probably write a 1-inch thick book of it. It's just sheer absurdity. Okay, I just thought I'd throw that out. Okay, Genesis 15:18. In the same day, Jehovah made a covenant with Abram. He didn't change his name yet, saying, "Unto thy seed have I given this land, from the river of Egypt unto the great river, the river Euphrates." Now, you know, the great river of Egypt would, to me, mean the Nile. I don't know of any other great river of Egypt. And we read about the Nile in prophecy. And the Euphrates we know about. Now there's lunatics running around saying the Euphrates is already dried up. It hasn't already dried up. Parts of it are dry. At low tide, you might say, although it's a river. But this has happened historically in many places. But the Euphrates is still alive and well in many areas. It is not dried up. These are people that are ignorant and they don't care and they just want clicks. All right. Now, the kicker is he goes on and he tells you what races of people this pertains to: the Canaanites, the Kenizzites, the Cadmonites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Rephaims, and the Amorites, and the Canaanites, and the Girgashites, and the Jebusites. So I tend to favor where it says, I will give you the land that your fathers had. Those prophecies tend to pertain to what we're facing today in these days, not years in the future now. So I think that's the land that we'll be getting back. So what I did, and I didn't do a thorough job, it's very difficult because a lot of people confuse. They make maps of the land that Solomon and David had. They make maps of future land. They don't understand timing for this, and they don't always get it right. Some of them are absolutely trying to deceive you. Some of them don't. It's very difficult. So what I did was I took a little bit of a different approach to it, which other people in the past have done. And I went to Ezekiel 47 and 48, which is talking about dividing the land, which is going to happen quite soon. Okay, not years, weeks, or months. And it gives you the borders for the different tribes. So obviously it's post-second Exodus. Well, why would we be dividing the land if the tribes aren't there? So if you want the short version, what I want to try to do today is focus heavily on Lebanon, Hezbollah. And I want to show you we get a good major piece of Lebanon back to us or given to us in Ezekiel 47, all the way up by Mount Lebanon, which is by Hetholon, Hethholon in King James English, which is by Mount Lebanon, which is northeast of Tripoli, and it's like Beirut area. Okay, now I want to show you how far, I'm going to tell you how far away Mount Lebanon or Hetholon is from Israel, the border. It's pretty interesting. It's 236 miles north of the existing Israel border now. And we have other prophecies that are very interesting that fit with this. Lebanon, open your doors, let the cedars of Lebanon burn. Guess where the oldest forest of cedar trees happens to be, but by Mount Lebanon. Drum roll. Okay, isn't that interesting? So, what I want to do, talk to you now, is more on the wars, and then I'll feed into Bible prophecy, but I want to explain a few things in the wars to you. Now remember, I've lived here for many years, and this ain't my first war. This is the worst war I ever remembered, and the biggest one, but I don't, but it's nasty. It's taking its toll on the Israeli people. Many of them are going to the doctors and getting, I don't know, like anxiety medicines, whatever you call it, antidepressant, whatnot. I was sitting outside the other night and we had some Iron Dome takedowns. When the Iron Dome goes off, they send 2. And having heard all kinds of ordnance over the years, I would say these things were perhaps even 10 or 15 miles away, but minimal 5 or 7. Minimal, probably further. And, it booms, but they don't disturb the dogs because the dogs know it's far away. And their dog logic is, oh, that can't hurt me, it's far away, ignore it, If anything, if one of the nutty kids in the neighborhood starts lighting firecrackers off, a block away or 2 blocks, the dogs light up like crazy, But they don't respond to this because they know it's far away. They got better ears than we do. Now, when you have Iron Dome takedowns, what happens is when there's an incoming bogey, it could be a missile, let's say, or a drone. We don't have incoming aircraft from Hezbollah or Hamas. You don't have that. Okay. So the Iron Dome plots its trajectory. Hezbollah doesn't have missiles where they could alter the trajectory while it's in flight. Okay? They don't have them. Does Iran have them? I doubt it. Hamas? No. So we projected, our computers very quickly, in a matter of probably under 2 or 3 seconds, from the launch, our radar picks it up, the computers calculate the trajectory, and then the computers decide, are we going to launch Iron Domes, or David Sling, or the Arrow, depending on the bogey, or ignore it. Now, a lot of times, these things are ignored because they're projected to land in nowhere, like out in the field someplace, or on a rural road on a mountain that nobody goes on, or something like this, right? If it's going into a populated area, then we send up anti-missile missiles. Sometimes anti-missile missiles are fired by our fighter jets. So some of you have heard me talk during broadcasts, especially when I do them outside, that there's constant aircraft overhead. It's nonstop. I'm always hearing jets. Well, that's because they're there in case there's an incoming bogey in an area where we don't have the Iron Domes positioned. So they can get over there extremely fast. The Israeli jets are really under orders not to break the sound barrier unless it's an emergency, and occasionally they do. Going back 30, 35 years ago, I used to live by the Sea of Galilee, overlooking the Sea of Galilee to the Golan Heights, and back then, Syria was a bad boy, and our jets would break the sound barrier all the time. I mean, every day, 2, 3 times. What they would do is they would fly over our head low, cross over the Sea of Galilee low, so the Syrian radar wouldn't pick them up. And then, when they were coming to the Golan Heights, they would pull the joystick back, or the handle, whatever they use, and they'd elevate, and they'd break the sound barrier. And then, the guys in the Syrian army are sitting there like this, watching the radar screen, right? And then they see, oh, Akbar, and they start going crazy, right? This was a daily routine, and you'd hear a bang or an explosion type sound in the air, and then the doors would move, and the dishes would rattle, and the windows would rattle. Okay? And this was a daily occurrence. I must have gone through hundreds of these things. It was normal for us. But today, they don't like it happening because the people think they're getting hit with incoming missiles. or suicide drones from the explosion. So to break the sound barrier, you got to go 750 miles an hour. So if they go 700 or 725 even, they're not breaking the sound barrier. You're just going to hear regular jet noise. Now, I can tell the difference when they're hauling or they're just patrolling. You know, when they're just patrolling, they're probably going 400 or 500 miles an hour. When they're hauling without breaking the sound barrier, there's a difference, and they're usually low too. Okay. Now we got various kinds of aircraft, but you know, predominantly you're going to hear F-16s or F-35s. F-16s, I believe, have two engines. 35 got one big honking engine. Makes a lot of noise. Years ago, I heard the Russian Tupolev bombers in Syria. They were over there. This is going back quite a few years ago. And it was a loud, and I'm in Israel, so I heard it from Syria. It was the loudest plane I ever remember hearing. This thing has two propellers, one in the front of the motor and one in the back. And it manages to break the sound barrier with propellers. Of course, it's a turboprop, you would call it. It has a jet engine with the propellers. But this thing made a racket like you couldn't believe. Even from Syria, I heard it making a racket. When there's trouble in Syria, a lot of the explosions go off, and we not only hear them, they not only rattle the window, you feel the percussion in your ear. Okay? So after so much of this, you get desensitized. So I sit outside with the dogs and I hear the iron domes going off, and other people freak out. You know, now when they project where the iron dome, where the projectile's going to land, if it's in what they call an open field, in other words, nobody's going to be affected. They don't sound the red alert. They don't blow the sirens, okay, to go into the shelter. And they also don't launch iron domes. Now, if it looks like it's possibly going to hit some area where people are, then they launch the iron domes. But the iron domes is quite good, so they don't necessarily blow the air raid siren, let's call it that, from World War II. They don't blow that. Because they're going to have a takedown. The Iron Dome's a proximity weapon. It launches and gets nearby the bogey coming in, and it blows itself up, and shrapnel goes flying all over the place. And it hits the bogey. And this is also good because the remnants in the Iron Dome fall down, but since it blows itself into little pieces, there's not anything that's going to come down, land on your roof, penetrate the roof, and hit you in the head when you're in bed or something like that. So I've given you, from somebody who lives in Israel, what's going on. Now, I was never in the military, but when I was younger, years ago, I used to be a reserve cop here. It's not exactly called a reserve cop, but the Americans would relate to it like that. You have full police powers, ID, when you go out on patrol, carry a gun. I used to carry an M1 carbine, which I really liked. It's had a rifle. It was a Korean era rifle, this many years ago. And, you had to schlep it around with you, but I had a great club. It had a metal, I think most of them had a metal base plate, so when you put the stock up against your shoulder, it was metal. So, and it shoots 110 grain full metal jacket bullet at 1900 feet per second, which can rip through cars. And most of the bulletproof vests, not the steel plate vest or the ceramic ones, but back then those things were almost non-existent. Actually, we used to go out on patrol without vests, and the police didn't wear vests. The regular police, they got a salary. So anyway, that's just trying to give you, state of the art here. So tensions on the people in Israel and the stress on the people of Israel are quite elevated. The hostage thing has the people completely at wit's end. Netanyahu has 3 criminal cases on his head. The trials have already started. If he gets convicted, they were all for corruption. If he gets convicted, he'll have a total of 16 years in jail. He's, 75 years old or something like that. So the chances of him, doing good in jail are pretty minimal, right? Normally they would probably give him 2 to 4 years in jail, but since he has so many dedicated enemies that he's made, political enemies, it would probably be, long enough so he dies in jail. Of course, there's a major portion of Israel that hates this guy. He's horrible, let me tell you. He's wrecked Aliyah. He doesn't want Jews moving to Israel. He's destroyed our economy. People are leaving Israel, which is what he wants, because they can't afford the housing. They'll never own a house. I mean, a crash course in how bad it is. Our cars are taxed at 100 to 150%. So if you were going to buy, an F-150 pickup truck, I don't know what they cost in America, let's say $35,000. Here it would be $70,000. Imagine that. And if you were going to buy a Mercedes, that in America is $70,000, over here it would be $195,000. Okay? Anything resembling a decent house, not an apartment, a decent house in Israel is going to be $750,000 to $1 million. And that's not luxury, that's just decent. Apartments, anything decent, probably $350,000. We're talking 2-bedroom, not nice place with a small balcony, like the balcony on a cruise ship or something, no jacuzzis, no islands in the kitchen. Not a really nice place. Okay? Nice apartments are, $3 to $25 million. Our wages are not that high. We can't afford that stuff here. You have to pay into a medical plan here in Israel. It's the law. Okay? You have to. Because I'm retired, me and my wife pay approximately $350 a year. And we don't have a deductible at the hospital, and most prescriptions you pay 15%. Not every prescription, most of them. I don't bother with the healthcare system here. The drugs they use are from years ago, and it's just not any good. I know people that go there and get operations, and they're messed up from the operation. I just don't go. Okay? And as soon as you start going, the doctors say, "Oh, okay, you want to come? Let me get you healthy here. Go show up in the morning, don't eat, and get these blood tests, get the urine tests, get the occult stool test." They drive you crazy, right? They take so much blood out of you when you do this. I did it once. They take so much blood out of you, you think you're in a Dracula movie, And then the doctor calls and goes through all this stuff with you, Then comes, well, you should get a pneumonia vaccine. Well, you should get another vaccine. You should get this vaccine. You should get the anti-dragon venom vaccine because we heard in other countries there's dragons that might come and bite you one day. So I'm making that up, of course, but they want you to go get tested like crazy. Oh, and then comes x-rays and comes sonograms and comes this and that and boom, make you crazy. They make you crazy. And then they hand out medicine pretty freely. They hand out pain medicine, not like they do in America. They just throw it around very liberally. Um, you can get medical marijuana just by going to a doctor and telling them, anorexia, trouble sleeping, nervous, whatever, and they just give you a prescription for it. I don't know how much of it you have to pay and how much the government pay. I don't know. They tried to make it full legal here, and that curse of Israel, Netanyahu wouldn't let them do it. So anyway, Netanyahu's a piece of garbage, and the people voted him in. He has 3 criminal cases hanging on his head. And now he's very worried about what to do. Now let's talk about Biden. Okay? Biden was putting incredible pressure on Israel not to attack Rafah, which we really haven't done yet. That's the south of Gaza Strip near Egypt by Sinai Peninsula, right around there. Because that's the last standhold or holdout of Hamas and PIJ, Palestinian Islamic Jihad. There's between 1 million to 1.5 million people in that Rafah area now. And Biden was saying, humanitarian aid, and genocide, don't go into Rafah, don't go in. And he beat Hamas with a stick politically to make some sort of peace deal. He couldn't get anywhere with Hamas. So what he did is he turned to Netanyahu and he started bearing down on Netanyahu, make a ceasefire for 6 weeks with them, and during the ceasefire we'll get the hostages back, not before. Now, if Netanyahu did something like that, we would have a vote of no confidence in our Knesset, which is our one-house parliament with 120 seats, okay? And Netanyahu would not be able to show that he had 61 votes anymore. So normally there's a new election which takes 3 months minimum, so it's really closer to 4 months. But because of the war and other problems, that wouldn't happen. Once Netanyahu couldn't show 61 votes, the president of Israel would come around and say, can anybody else here come up with a majority? And then Benny Gantz would say, I can, and he would probably get it. And now Netanyahu's not prime minister. Then the Supreme Court, which hates his guts, it's really called the High Court. We slang it as the Supreme Court. We have no Supreme Court. We also have no Constitution. And they got something similar to a Constitution, but it ain't it. It's called Basic Laws. So they would accelerate his trial because he's stopping the advancement of his trial by saying, I'm prime minister, I got to deal with the war, I can't deal with my case. If you progress the trial, it's not fair to me. And they said, well, you're right. So as the Gaza war is winding down, he opens up the Lebanon war. Now, Netanyahu is under a delusion. Netanyahu is not serving the God of Israel. Okay? Forget that. Okay? He's the one that started these parades, which ones I mean, through Jerusalem and Tel Aviv. They're so abominable to Jehovah. Nobody for thousands of years ever in Israel did anything as sick as that. Okay? He breaks the scriptures all over the place. Tries to get Israel into peace treaties with the surrounding neighbors who will sign peace treaties, but according to their religious book, they can make peace treaties and break them at will if it advances their cause. So that they're worthless for their word. Worthless. I can't tell you how many times Hamas broke a ceasefire. Dozens and dozens. So Netanyahu is between a rock and a hard place, as Jehovah would work it out. If Netanyahu decides to sell Israel out, it's not going to work because, boom, there'll be a vote of no. If you have vote of no confidence in the United States, Biden would have been out, 18 months ago? Yeah. It can be a decent system. But democracy is never anything Jehovah ever uses, let alone for Israel. Forget that. So, Netanyahu's opening up a Lebanon war in case the Gaza war finishes. He could still have another war and go crying to the Supreme Court about, oh, you can't push my trial because I got this. Okay? Now, it looks like Benny Gantz would have enough votes to take him out. But don't think that Benny Gantz is going to be any better than Netanyahu. He's going to be different than Netanyahu, and it's hard for me to imagine anybody being as bad as Netanyahu. I mean, having Netanyahu is like having Satan in office, you know? So, not quite that bad, but it's bad. So Gantz will be different than Netanyahu, but don't think he's cut from the same demonic cloth as Netanyahu. Don't deceive yourself. It'll be different, but it's not going to be good. We had a good guy trying to get advanced in politics called Moshe Feiglin. Netanyahu destroyed him politically. He's out of politics now, basically. But he had some good ideas. Now we got two players in the Knesset, Bezalel Smotrich and Itzmar Ben-Gvir. And they're right wing, and they are orthodox. They don't know Yeshua. They're opposed to Messianics, but they got a lot of other things right. And it's a thorn in Netanyahu's side, and they keep telling him that if you do this, we're going to break the coalition, and you're going to have to stand for new election, and you're going to lose, and then you can go, you'll be in jail, and we'll come visit you. We'll bring you some nice cakes and stuff, So Netanyahu is really in a rock and a hard place. Thank you, Jehovah. So Biden says, don't do the Rafah crossing. Netanyahu publicly says anybody that tells us not to attack Rafah is asking us to lose the war. Is Netanyahu right? Yes. If we attack Rafah, it's going to take 2 to 6 weeks, depending on how it plays. And then that will completely disintegrate Hamas. They will not be able to function, and it would probably take them a considerable amount of time to gear up again and refunction. And I don't believe prophetically they have that time. As I've told you many times, we're in the year of recompenses, which started on or around August 1st. Now, some of you going to say, where did I get that from? I got that from the Lord. And if you don't want to believe me, I understand that. Okay? But I would also say to you, look around you. Look around you. And when you study the year of recompenses, you also find in the same passages, you get reference to the year of redemption. The year of redemption looks very much like a jubilee year because we get our inheritance back, our land back, like in a jubilee year. Now that's key to what we're going to cover today. Now, as I told you, I haven't brought this up in a few weeks. We've had so much rain in Israel. God's garden is full of water. And now we've been getting lots of sunlight. Now, what's the perfect ingredient to grow crops? Duh, this kid from the Bronx even knows that. plenty of water and plenty of sunlight. Boom, they shoot up, and that's what's happening. I took you in my garden and I showed you pictures of how this stuff is amassing. My wife the other day says, "Oh my gosh, we're getting so many apples off the apple tree." We grow edibles on our property. We have a front and rear garden, and we grow a lot of stuff like, mangoes, tomatoes, all kinds of things. We eat it. Papayas. We get so many papayas in a regular year that we get sick of eating them, and papayas are delicious. But we get so many, after a while we just start giving them away because you can't keep eating, Eat papaya every day for 3 weeks or 4 weeks. You don't want to look at another papaya, And the mangoes, and we get all kinds of things here to eat. And, they're good because they're organic, We ecosystem the place with wood chips and everything, and we don't use the bad bug sprays and all that. So we got it all down. We grow our own worms. We have, I don't know what you call it, a wormery or something, So moving along, is Israel going to go into Rafah? Yes. Did Israel say that they're going to wait till around March 15th to attack Lebanon? Yes. Why? Because Israel wants the ground to dry up from all this rain. Because it's easier and better for the tanks and the Humvees and the armored personnel carriers and the foot soldiers to have dry land. I got this problem with the floor here. Let me take a fast break and I'll be right back. I don't know what happened. The floor is like an ice skating rink again. I gotta fix this thing with the floor. Break your neck on this thing. Oh, I gotta be careful I don't break my neck. I mean, I'm telling you, it's like ice. Like going on an ice skating rink. Okay. I think somebody's spraying something on here, like with the lady that cleans. Let me look at the chat for a second. Somebody come in here spamming the place, I just block them. Somebody writes 4 more years. For what? So anyway, I believe we're in a jubilee year, and the Hebrew year started this year, February 11th. And I believe the Lord really convinced me of it with all the rain. And then I started comparing year of redemption, which is when we get our land back, and what happens in a jubilee year. So it appears to me the year of redemption is going to be in a jubilee year because they line up so good. All right, moving along. I believe starting February 11th, we went into it. So we're going to have an overlap between the year of recompenses and the year of redemption. The year of recompenses should close out on or around August 1st, give or take 2 or 3 or 4 days. I don't remember the exact date the Lord gave it to me. But it was very close to August 1st. So. Now, it appears that Ramadan starts on the 10th of March, which is not far away. By the way, I believe in America you adjusted your clocks already. We don't adjust our clock, or you will today or something. We don't adjust our clocks until March 29. So we're not in sync with America, okay? Just remember that. So that's when you move them ahead. Okay, so we do it on March 29, not till then. All right. So Hamas right now will not budge on the ceasefire. They want insane conditions from Israel. So Biden bore down on Israel, I'm telling you, hard. And then he tried to get Egypt and Qatar to convince Hamas to take some sort of a deal, and they couldn't get anywhere either. So now comes the State of the Union address. And Biden made an empty threat or an implied threat that he would stop Israel from using American weapons if they attack Rafah. He backed off of that. I think he would probably like to do that, but he's not going to. So we're going to hit Rafah any day now. And probably knock off Rafah and then take on Lebanon. Okay? We've got to destroy the tunnels in Rafah, which to some limited extent we've already done. Khan Yunis, which was the last stronghold, you might say, central Gaza, is pretty much a parking lot made out of rubble. And then we do this. Now comes the humanitarian aid. Okay, this is nonsense because Hamas steals the humanitarian aid. And they can't get enough of it in to do any good. And when they do get it in, they're getting garbage. They're getting Skittles. Skittles, the candy. They're giving the Muslims in Gaza food they don't know from. Chili. I mean, it's rare to ever see chili in a restaurant in Israel. They don't know. People don't know what chili is. They don't understand what chili is. They don't know what it is. They're giving them noodles and chicken. Now, we know what that is, but they don't eat that. They're getting pasta, spaghetti with meat sauce. That they know what that is. Okay? They're getting junk. They're getting bread with like peanut butter and stuff like that. They're not getting enough calories. They're not getting enough stuff. It keeps them from starving. Humanitarian aid's coming from a multitude of different countries. Israel does not give them food. It's comprised of food, water, bottled water, medical equipment and supplies, and fuel for cooking. And I'm not sure if they send diesel or vehicle fuel anymore, but cooking fuel they send. Hamas steals it from the trucks, uses it themselves, puts it in stores, and sells it to the people at crazy high prices. We've presented videos of this. We don't have 3 or 4 videos of this. We got dozens of videos of them stealing the food. Nobody wants to talk about that. So instead of coming down on Hamas, he decided to come down on Israel, and it didn't work. So what did Biden do in the State of the Union? He said the reason the war was good, he wanted to make sure he doesn't get any blame for this, so he had to blame it on somebody. And for some reason, he decided not to blame it on Israel, but to blame it on Hamas. So he said Hamas won't surrender the hostages, they don't want a ceasefire, they don't want this, they don't want that. So he put the blame on them. But then he goes around and sticks the dig in to show us he hates Israel and says he wants a 2-state solution. That's the only way Israel's going to have any peace. They're afraid to attack Israel and just throw us in the sea or kill us because they tried that many times since 1948 and they always lost. And look how great Hamas did this time. They can return to Gaza. Prophetically, it won't happen, I don't think. They could return to Gaza, but what are they going to do when they get to Gaza? The streets are shot, the traffic lights are shot, the parking is gone, the sewage is gone, the water is gone, the internet and the cell phones is iffy, off and on all the time. 80 or 85% of the houses are damaged or destroyed. And the people that left to get away from the bombings, the other ones robbed their houses. Hamas, probably. Nice people. Egypt won't take them. Jordan won't take them. Nobody's going to take them because they want them there to curse Israel and destroy Israel. And Biden wants Hamas to be able to revive itself to destroy Israel again. When we hit him in Rafah, that's over with. So the latest thing Biden came up with to make himself look like, like Tarzan, is they're going to build a temporary pier by Gaza, and they're going to offload product for humanitarian aid from ships. And he says we're going to have American troops there, but they're going to stay on the ships and not going to have boots on the ground. He did that because he doesn't want the Muslim world to think he's putting American soldiers in Gaza. And I don't know how it's going to work. And a lot of us don't trust this temporary pier because we don't know what Biden's really up to. He's an enemy of ours. And when you read the prophecies in Jeremiah 50 and 51, it says the daughter of Babylon is going to do evil to Israel in our sight. And he's done evil. October 7th, I've covered that many times. He's done evil, and he'll continue to do evil. And it's going to get worse than what he's already done, which is bad enough. Let me see what this thing is. Hang on a second. I'm not even sure this is real. Try to get a signal. Oh. He sent me a notice about collecting some fees that amounted to about $13. I don't know what they're talking about. Okay. So Biden blamed it on Hamas because he knows Israel's going to go through with it anyway, and he doesn't want to look weak. So he makes Hamas to be the bad guy, so he looks like he's going to be a good guy. So we're going to hit Rafah, and we're going to get Palestine back. That's in the scripture. They shall swoop down on the shoulders of the Philistines. The Philistines is the Gaza Strip. It's going to be our land again. It was ours. And in 2008, we gave it back to them. Thank you, Netanyahu, you piece of garbage. And they turned it into a war zone against us. And that's exactly what they would do to the West Bank if we ever gave it back to them. And that's why Biden wants us to give it back to him, because he knows they'll use it to destroy Israel along with Gaza. And that's why he doesn't want us occupying Gaza. What will happen is we will be in Gaza, and that's the prophecy. Now, we're going to be experiencing more and more resistance from Biden, as you'll see, as time rolls on, the next few days, weeks, maybe a very small amount of months. Now comes Lebanon. I heard our defense minister say, I could attack Lebanon and turn it back into the Middle Ages by the afternoon of the day we attacked it. Okay? I never heard the Israeli government say Lebanon or Hezbollah has 250,000 missiles. They got thousands of missiles that can destroy our cities or anything like that. I have heard the media talk about that all the time. Now, what I always tell my people on Telegram and here is don't listen to these leaders in countries like as follows: Gaza, Lebanon, Yemen, Iran, Iraq, Syria, or Jordan. They're liars. They lie and they lie and they lie. Jordan couldn't even land humanitarian aid on the beach. It kept falling in the ocean. Great Air Force, huh? So you can't listen to them. You know, if you listen to Iran, they could sit there one day, push the green button from Iran, and Israel would be a waste heap from their, missiles that break through the firmament, go into space where there's really water, travel through there, break the firmament, come down again. Of course, you can't break the firmament. Come down again and blow up Israel. I mean, come on, you can believe these morons. So, they've been telling us for what, 8 or 10 years that Iran's going to have a nuke any day now? Where's their nuke? Iran's afraid of us. More oil fields, we're blowing up oil fields and pipelines in Iran all the time. We don't take credit for it publicly, but who do you think did it? You think Biden did it? You think Putin did it? Who did it? We did it. They can't protect against us. So they're not going to raise up against us. If they do, our F-35s are going to be peppering them with bombs round the clock. We have refueling tanker planes. It just layer. I mean, what could Israel hit? They could hit the piers where they have the oil, and they offload the oil into tanker ships to travel around the world and make money. Child's play for Israel to blow those things up. Then comes oil refineries. Child's play for us to blow that up. What do they got for the economy after that? Iran sells medical equipment. They sell computer technology. What do they sell? They sell oil. You put them out of business like nothing. Nothing. One day. Maybe it would in reality take 3 to 5 days. We'd keep hitting other targets. Do they have anything that they could use to stop us? No. Nothing. Nothing. Then we could go blow their boats up in the Persian Gulf, and they've got no protection from a ground invasion then. Not that we would bother with the ground invasion. You don't have to. Iran is full of underground bunkers and tunnels, but you can't put radar underground. Goodbye radar. You can't put oil refineries underground. Go buy oil refineries. Okay? You can't put the equipment, the tanks to store the petroleum in to load up the tanker ships that dock up. You can't put that underground. That's the end of that. You know, we can go on from there, but that's all you got to do. Biden's not talking about the Lebanon war too much, as you notice, right? He's talking heavily about Hamas. They're making peace proposals to Hezbollah, and the Hezbollah says we're not even reading them. Hezbollah is saying we're not going to stop attacking Israel until Israel stops fighting against Gaza. The Houthis in Yemen are saying the same thing. Has Biden done anything serious against the Houthis in Yemen? Heck no. What Biden did is he knocked out, the Americans in the UK knocked out a lot of those big radar things in Yemen. So what happened right after that? Iran puts a warship there. It's a surveillance spy ship. It has a lot of radar and electronic stuff. So they find the target. They give the GPS, with their radar, give the GPS coordinates to the Houthis. They launch missiles, drones, naval drones, whatever. And then Iran guides the drones and the missiles into the target with this ship. And they got a ship the other day, and they actually killed a few guys and wounded some other ones. And they actually sank a ship with some toxic material in it that killed a massive amount of shrimp in the river, which they eat. Muslims eat shrimp. They don't eat pork. So the Houthis created an eco-crisis. Does the world care? Nah, they don't care. Just as long as they kill Jews, they're respectable citizens in Satan's world. Now, people care, but, you know. I hear about, things with, people praying for Israel in the churches. What did Yeshua say about people when they see somebody homeless or without food or without clothes, that they pray for them? Yeshua didn't like that at all. And that's the church in Israel. They'll pray for us and that's it. That's not the right way. They don't do anything for us. What do they do for us? They take a Star of Rephaim flag and wave it in their church. We stand with Israel. There's no difference if they stand with Israel. They don't stand with Israel. How is Israel affected? The leaders of every country in the world, including America, are opposed to Israel. For Satan's the God of this world still for a remaining brief period of time. And they are they're ineffective against the government of the United States. What are they going to do? Vote for Trump? There's not enough time. I'm hearing reports now that sleeper agents are as high as the amount of illegals are coming in. I'm hearing reports now 15 to 18 million. And 70% of those are military-age males. So you could have as much as, 10 or 11 or 12 million military-age males running around in America. That's certainly enough to take out the American military bases. A mysterious Chinese balloon a few weeks ago passes over Utah into Colorado on its way to Florida. Well, when you go from Colorado to Florida, it looks like you're going to cross the Texas Panhandle. And at the very northern part of the Texas Panhandle, voila, we had Texas' largest fire, which is still burning. It's killed a lot of cattle, killed a lot of grazing land, and it's still going. Probably take another 2 or 3 weeks to get it under control. And a year ago, they were saying these Chinese balloons could start fires with lasers. Anybody talk about this? Not really. In Jeremiah 50:51, the Lord says he will kindle fires in and around your cities. And that's what just happened. Then a fisherman in Alaska retrieved one of these balloons that he saw fall into the ocean and turned it over to the FBI, but the FBI is never going to tell you what the capabilities of the balloon were. Why should they tell you? You don't mean anything to them. Biden didn't shoot down that Chinese balloon. He says, oh, we're going to let it go so we could observe it and see what it's doing. Well, we know what it did. So how's all this stuff going to play out? Well, Israel's going to keep turning against Biden because Netanyahu has to. What Netanyahu wants to do is show victories to the Israel public so they trust him again. And they don't want to overthrow him. And that enables him after the wars to go back and do judicial reform and get himself what they call that French law, which gives the prime minister immunity for anything he did when he was in office, and that's the end of his corruption cases. They become moot and dismissed. He tried that, but Israel was too distrusting of him. He couldn't get it through. So that's what his plan is, to become a hero to Israel. If he can't be a hero to Israel, then he may try to have Israel destroyed so there are no more courts and jails for him to get stuck in. But I don't think he's in that wavelength yet, and the other leaders may not go for that because they are not facing jail. So they may not let him do that. They don't want to lose their lifestyle. Where are they going to go? What are they going to do? So would Israel behave the way it is towards Lebanon if Lebanon really had all these big, bad, dangerous missiles? I don't think they would. I think when Gallant said I could turn Lebanon into the Middle Ages, in one day, he meant it. He meant it. They don't have air defenses. They don't have an air force. They don't got a navy worth anything. They can't defend against us. Much of what they're doing to us is drones and anti-tank missiles. Iran must have given them hundreds and hundreds of those things. They're good for a distance of a mile, maybe, or something like that. They're pretty basically a line of sight thing. They don't go far. The drones could go far. They could be suicide drones, and they are dangerous. And they have missiles, too, that could hit some of the big cities, but they're not guided missiles. And they could get taken down by our missile defense systems, David Sling, Arrow, Iron Dome. And they can hit cities and cause destruction. But they're liars like Iran and like Hamas, and they're going to lie and they're going to try to scare everybody in Israel that they've got so many great weapons. Now, why would Israel want to push them back to what's called the Litani River, which is a real river, and it's 17 or 18 miles, depending where you measure the river, to the Israel-Lebanon border? They want to push them back there. Well, if they had thousands of these rockets that could go 200, 300, 400 miles and were guided and accurate with big warheads, what's the point of pushing them back 17 miles? Where's that going to get you? If, on the other hand, Lebanon predominantly had a lot of Katyushas, which don't go more than about 12 or maybe 15 miles, it would work. Lebanon definitely has a few of these long-range missiles. Let's talk. The amount of missiles you have is not relevant as much as missile launchers. A large ballistic missile, it's not a ballistic missile, it doesn't go through the firmament in space. A long-range missile with a big warhead requires a launcher that's either rigidly embedded in the ground or it's put on the bed of a truck. So these missile launches are driven, it's basically like a tractor-trailer truck with a lowboy for a trailer. And the lowboy has a missile launcher on it, one big missile. And they need another truck with it that has the extra missiles and a crane. So they set the truck up, and the truck has its own radar, a little radar thing. So they power up their radar. Now Israel's anti-radar systems get a bead on their radar, and we could shoot Delilah missiles at them, which rides the trail of their radar right up to the source and explodes it. And that's what happens when they leave the system on. The radar, so they turn the radar on, they get their coordinates, they get a lock, they take their missile, they fire it up, they heat it up. Meanwhile, we know that they're doing this from the radar. And then they get a launch. And we may very well knock it down, because if it's a long-range launch, our, David Sling and Arrow and Iron Dome have a long time to get a lock on the trajectory and then, launch accordingly. Now, what happens to the truck that has the missile launcher? Well, as soon as the missile launches, we have those coordinates, and they're told to the jets. So they'll send 2 jets, F-16, F-15, F-35, you name it. Go over there, and they'll have some rockets under the wings. And they'll fly a pass to see if the missile launcher is still there. If it is, they'll circle around and shoot a few missiles at it and blow it up. If it's not around, then they'll start flying a pattern and look for it. If the truck moved, the planes could find that missile launcher easily. Why? It's a low boy. It's not far off the ground. It can't travel on rough terrain. Maybe it could go on a dirt road. Maybe not. It depends if there's mud and other things. Maybe not. Could it go on a gravel road? Same thing. Maybe, maybe not. Could it go on a blacktop or a concrete road? Yeah, that's the safest bet. If they get it stuck in gravel or dirt, it's going to be blown up for sure. So they try to move the truck with the launcher and get it hidden someplace where the planes won't pick it up. Probably not going to work well. When planes see it, they blow it up. The auxiliary truck that has the crane and the missiles on it, it'll get blown up too. To load a new missile onto the missile launcher is probably a 10 or 15 minute job. So they can't just machine gun keep firing these things. Every time they fire one up, they're going to lose a launcher. So they're not going to have very many serious missiles for very long. And, they're not, are they going to keep all their missile launches down by the border with Israel where they're highly vulnerable? No, they're going to keep them in other parts of the country. Israel's not behaving like they're a serious threat, okay? Israel's not behaving that way. if we conquer Rafah, it's not going to be that the Houthis in Yemen and Hezbollah say, well, it's over now, we're going to stop. Because we're still going to occupy. Netanyahu wants to have a 1 kilometer buffer zone on Gaza territory, a no man's land, which is basically going to stop them from infiltrating. Because our sensors and cameras will pick it up in the no man's land, which is 1 kilometer deep, 0.6, a little more than half a mile, 0.6 of a mile, or 3/5. So any infiltration will be picked up, and then snipers will go to work on that. Flashlights come on, snipers and towers lock in on them. Loudspeakers say turn back, and then goodbye terrorists. So what we need to look for is Rafah. Now that's going to infuriate the nations like you have no idea. Because if Rafah goes, Hamas goes. So they resent Israel and they want Israel to just suck it up and, take a defeat and let Hamas attack you again, which would only be in 2 to 3 or 4 weeks. It wouldn't take them a month on the outside, they'd be attacking us again. So Israel will be attacking Lebanon. We will invade Lebanon. We've been picking off many Hezbollah outposts between the Litani River and the northern and the border between Israel and Lebanon. And Hezbollah has not shown us any advanced weapons. Now, some people are going to say that's because they don't want the war accelerated. Well, they've been escalating the war steadily. They're not showing us any sophisticated missiles. We have so many troops up at the border. If they had such great missiles, they could rain them down on our troops and wipe out our army. It doesn't sound like the Israeli army is interested in seeing that happen. It could happen, and that would mean Netanyahu wants Israel destroyed so he could escape going to jail and dying in jail. Then that could be the case. And many of the others don't want October 7th to get out. And this could be they're trying to work with Satan and destroy Israel, and that could be an outcome, but I doubt it. Yeah, I doubt it. I don't think Hezbollah has the punch. They're all liars. They're all liars. And they just keep threatening us to scare our population, put pressure on the politicians not to pursue this. And I don't think Hezbollah can deliver. They'll be able to hit some large cities with missiles. They may cause damage. Most of the people will be in bomb shelters. They're not going to get hurt, I don't think. And Lebanon's going to go down hard. And Gaza's about finished, okay? Somebody writes, it's technology used to detect bunkers. I don't know what you're referencing. Some guy says I make no sense. I don't think that. When they come in and they try to dominate the chat, guys, those are S-bots. They think they're gods and stuff like that. They're just derelicts, the blind leading the blind. And they come in and dominate the chat, and they waste the time. When you start seeing that, regular people will come in, they'll write 1 or 2 entries in the chat, maybe ask a question or put a scripture up. They don't sit there and make, when you start seeing a list of them, it's some disturbed person or an S-bot or something. I just get rid of them. They're not here to learn, they're here to teach. Well, go find your own place to teach, not mine. Okay. So it looks like they're going to probably hit Rafah and then hit Lebanon. Now, what Hamas is hoping for is a Ramadan rescue, but it ain't coming. Who's going to rescue them on Ramadan? Who? I don't know. Tell me, who's going to rescue them? Syria? They can't hold up against us. Iraq, they're too far away. Nobody's going to rescue them. Nobody's coming to rescue them for Ramadan. They think it. What you're going to see is you got to be careful over Ramadan wherever you are in the world, because these terrorist-oriented people that are not always Muslim, but frequently Muslim, are going to be rising up in countries all over the world. Now, they do this on a regular Ramadan, but this Ramadan is going to be especially difficult. And Israel's probably going to be running 2 wars, one with Gaza and Lebanon over Ramadan. Now, why would Israel run 2 wars if Lebanon was so potent and powerful? The only reason is Netanyahu wants to destroy Israel, and that means Hezbollah really is that capable and competent, which I don't believe. Look at the Houthis. Look at how many times they shot at ships and not got anywhere with it. They're getting the same weapons from Iran, just like Hezbollah. They finally managed to sink a ship, and they finally managed to kill some guys on another ship. After weeks and weeks of trying. And the only reason they did it is because the Iranian warship is in the area targeting the targets, the ships, and guiding and directing the missiles and the drones, if they can be guided and directed. The drones for sure. The missiles, I don't think they could be guided. They just give them the coordinates, and so they got a couple of hits in. Maybe the Iranians perfected their targeting better and stuff like that. But the UK and the US took out the above ground radar in Yemen, and there is no below ground radar. So, is America doing anything aggressive about that? No. They have to invade the house. The only way you're going to stop that is to invade Yemen. Okay? That's it. Yemen in the Bible is referred to as Sheba. Was Yemen, and it's referred to as Teman in the Bible also, which means south. Now, it's really Sheba, like Queen of Sheba, but the Israeli public says, because Teman means south, that it means Yemen. They refer to that in modern Hebrew that way, but it's really Sheba. So, but Yemen is Yemen, okay? So, what are they going to do? Well, Yemen picked up 200,000 Muslim militia terrorist type people inside Yemen now. So the combined strength between the Houthis, the Yemen regular forces is 200,000. Add another 200,000 in, they're up to a good 400,000, and it could be higher by now. So the standard ratio to do a ground invasion of a country is 3 to 1. So if they have 400,000 soldiers, you would need 1.2 million. But considering America is, multiple times more advanced technology-wise with war technology than the Houthis, they probably could get a lot of damage done with 250,000 troops. And open border Biden, who's clearly opposing America, may very well decide to start bringing American troops into the area to invade Yemen to stop the shipping. Of course, it was easier for him to see if he could get Israel to stop, but there's a lot of people that are of the belief that Yemen is not going to stop. The Houthis are not going to stop now if Israel stops the war. They're going to want other conditions, And if Israel's fighting with Lebanon, they're not going to stop. They're going to say, well, they're fighting with Lebanon now, so we're going to keep it up. So they're not stopping, and Biden is not interested in stopping them. The American bases in Iraq and Syria, although mainstream media doesn't talk about it much, they're still getting attacked with frequency. Okay, it's still happening, and Biden's not taking a heavy hand to them. Biden is not taking a heavy hand to Iran. Biden, I believe, is going to move a lot of American military assets to the Middle East to weaken America. And the sleeper agents are going to come. Okay? They're going to come. So I think we're going to wind up, America, as the daughter of Babylon, is going to go bye-bye before the end of July, or August 1st or August 3rd or something. They'll be gone. And that'll give Israel a lot of time to move. But they don't have to be gone in July. They could be gone in May. Okay? No problem. They could be gone in April. And when that happens, then Israel's just going to say, okay, Gaza's ours, and they're going to take Lebanon. So our land that Solomon and David had goes very high up into Lebanon. Okay? And as I see it, we're going to be getting that land. And Gaza we know. And then we're going to be getting what you might say is southwestern Jordan. And maybe into Iraq, but I think just southwestern Jordan. It's going to come to us. So we'll be expanding our geography, but not overwhelmingly so. At this point in our progression in prophecy, I don't think we're going to get, into Africa and up into Turkey, not yet. We'll probably have that before New Jerusalem comes, because New Jerusalem's 1,500 miles wide, 1,500 miles long, 1,500 miles high, approximately. Some people say it's 1,380 miles long and okay, something like that. It's huge. So we need that land. So that'll probably happen progressively. But the next go round is going to give us this. Now, what I want to do next is take you through the next temple in the book of Ezekiel and show you things, including the dividing of the land. And I'm going to take a fast break if I don't break my neck trying to get up on this ice skating rink here. Ugh. There is a next temple. And it goes in the right place, which is on Mount Zion, which doesn't exist anymore because enemy armies in the past came and disassembled it. So we're going to see that. Now, people talk about they're going to sacrifice a red heifer, the rabbis, on the Mount of Olives because they have some sort of an area up there where they could do it. It's the incorrect place. They're the incorrect people. They don't follow the Bible. They follow the Talmud and the Kabbalah. And they're, it's basically irrelevant, and God may punish them if they actually try something like this. Because the rabbis in charge of it are making a mockery of Jehovah. Because they know the God they follow, and it ain't Jehovah. So, what could likely happen is missiles could come in from Syria or Lebanon and hit the Mount of Olives and blow it up. Now, the Mount of Olives, they would put it on the face of it near where the Temple Mount is. The Dome of the Rock and the Al-Aqsa Mosque is not where the temple was. It's several hundred feet off. It's where the Roman fort called Antonius or Antonio was. Not where that was the Roman fort next to the temple. That's where the Wailing Wall is. To make Yeshua out to be a false prophet because he said not one of these stones would be standing, they confused it and make the people think that the wall is from the temple. It's not. It's from Fort Antonius, a Roman fort. They go there and pray in front of a Roman fort. That's the reality. Where the pool of Siloam is closer to the temple. It's maybe 900 feet, 1,000 feet away, something like that, 1,200 feet, not very far. So, there's nothing there that's resembling a temple, and they're not going to do the sacrifices there. So if they start shooting missiles at the Mount of Olives from pretty good distances, there's a high probability they'll hit the Dome of the Rock and the Al-Aqsa Mosque. Now think how interesting that would be. Because they will immediately say Israel shot that missile, we didn't. And Israel will immediately show the radar tracking and show the origin of that missile. Would Israel use the Iron Dome to shoot it down if their computers told them it was going to hit the Dome of the Rock? I don't know. I don't really know. If they said Israel shot the missile that took out the Dome of the Rock, Al-Aqsa Mosque, would the Muslim world rise up against Israel? Yes. Could that be the cause in Zechariah 12? It could. Where they lay siege around Judah and Jerusalem. It could be it. It could be part of it. Could be. Now, I don't put much stock into this, the red heifer business with the rabbis and all that stuff. I've heard red heifer stories for decades. And I understand the red heifers, they have a GMO modified. Jehovah's definitely not going to respect those offerings if they do it. If anything, he'll get mad at them. So I, at this point, wouldn't pay a lot of attention to that. I would pay a lot of attention to a missile hitting the Dome of the Rock in the Al-Aqsa Mosque. Because that could do it. Okay. We read in Ezekiel 37 about the next temple. In verse 26, moreover, I will make a covenant of peace with them. Yeshua was the peace offering, not the sin offering. Sin offering is a steer, a bullock. The lamb is a peace offering. It shall be an everlasting covenant with them, and I will place them and multiply them. The word for place is Strong's number 5414. In Hebrew, which is Natan. Now, a few words after place them, it reads, and multiply them. That means reproduce lots of children. And then it says, and will set my sanctuary. Well, the word for set is Natan, which was a few words earlier interpreted as place. So they're trying to confuse us. So let's read it this way, and will place my sanctuary in the midst of them forevermore. Well, once this sanctuary or temple gets there, it ain't going nowhere. The word for sanctuary is mikdash, which means temple. Now, the next sentence is extremely unusual. My tabernacle also shall be with them. Yea, I will be their God, and they shall be my people. The word for tabernacle is mishkan, not mikdash, and it's a tabernacle, which is portable. And the goyim, or the heathen, shall know that I, Jehovah, do sanctify. Now, the word for sanctify is kadosh. Kadosh Kadashim is holiest of holies. So what it's really saying is, Lord, do holy, make Yisrael holy, when my sanctuary shall be in the midst of them forevermore. He keeps saying forevermore. Okay? Now, I don't normally teach from the Apocrypha or the Pseudepigrapha, but I'm going to deviate here briefly. And go into the Apocrypha in 2 Maccabees 2. Which is considered to be Second Maccabees is considered to be a historically accurate book. Verse 1, 2 Maccabees 2, verse 1. It is also found in the records with Jeremiah the prophet commanded them that were carried away to take of the fire as it hath been signified. And now that the prophet, having given them the law, that's Jeremiah, charged them not to forget the commandments of the Lord, and those are the same ones the church says are done away with, and that they should not err in their minds, when they see images of silver and gold with their ornaments. It's referencing them going into captivity for 70 years in Babylon. And with other such speech exhorted he them that the law should not depart from their hearts. That's the same law the church did away with. It was also contained in the same writing. The law is not done away with. The church did away with it. That the prophet, being warned of God, commanded the tabernacle and the ark to go with him. So we got the ark and the tabernacle. Now I'm going to take 2nd Maccabees over Ron Wyatt, that charlatan, churchianity preacher guy making merchandise out of God's people, selling them DVDs and stuff. Commanded the tabernacle and the ark to go with him as he went forth unto the mountain where Moses climbed up and saw the heritage or the inheritance of God, which is Mount Nebo. And when Jeremiah came thither, he found a hollow cave wherein he laid the tabernacle and the ark and the altar of incense, and so stopped the door. So he hid it in a hollow cave in Mount Nebo. And some of those that followed him, it all started with Moses, and now he hid it where Moses died. Something going on here, right? And some of those that followed him came to mark the way, but they could not find it, which when Jeremiah perceived, he blamed them, saying, as for that place, it shall be unknown until the time that God gather his people again together and receive them unto mercy. Then shall the Lord show them these things, and the glory of Jehovah shall appear, and the cloud also, as it was showed unto Moses, and as when Solomon desired that the place might be honorably sanctified. Now, where do we see this actually happen? Well, I'll show you. I think we see it in, hang on, let me get there. It's either Zechariah 1 or 2. Let me see. Zechariah 2:1. I lifted up my eyes again and looked, and behold, a man with a measuring line in his hand. Then said I, whither goest thou? And he said unto me, to measure Jerusalem, to see what the breadth thereof, and what is the length thereof. And behold, that's because it's going to be longer and wider and bigger, as per the other prophecies in Ezekiel. Ezekiel 47 and 48. And said unto him, run, speak to this young man, saying, Jerusalem shall be inhabited as towns without walls, for the multitude of men and cattle therein. For I, saith Jehovah, will be unto her a wall of fire round about, and will be the glory in the midst of her. Ho, ho, come forth and flee from the land of the north, saith Jehovah, for I have spread you abroad as the four winds of heaven, saith Jehovah. That's the second Exodus. Deliver thyself, O Zion, that dwelleth with the daughter of Babylon. Those are people of Israel in America, of which the true believers in Yeshua HaMashiach are in Israel, and also unsaved Israel. For thus saith Jehovah of hosts, after the glory hath he sent me unto the nations which spoiled you. He that toucheth you toucheth the apple of his eye. For behold, I will shake my hand upon them, and they shall be a spoil to their servants. That's Israel. And you shall know that Jehovah of hosts hath sent me. Sounds like Elijah. Sing and rejoice, O daughter of Zion, for lo, I come, and I will dwell in the midst of thee, saith Jehovah. This is the glory of God of Israel. And many nations shall be joined to Jehovah in that day, and shall be my people. So the heathen joined to Jehovah in that day will be Jehovah's people. You see, if you're a believer in Yeshua, you become Israel. It's right there. And I will dwell in the midst of thee, and thou shalt know that Jehovah of hosts hath sent me unto thee. It says in Exodus 23 that there's this angel that was with the children of Israel with Moses and Aaron in the wilderness, and God put his name, Jehovah, in this angel. So that angel would be Michael. And at times in the Bible, this angel is referred to as Jehovah because he's in the temple and he's with Israel and he receives the offerings in place of Jehovah because Jehovah put his name in him. So you have to know how to read it and the context. If it says Jehovah of hosts, it's Father God Jehovah. But when it says the God of Israel, it could mean Jehovah, the angel, Michael. And the Lord shall inherit Judah, his portion in the Holy Land, and shall choose Jerusalem again. Be silent, all flesh, before the Lord, for he is raised up out of this holy habitation. I think the scripture I wanted is actually in Zechariah 1. I'm looking for it. We're in Zechariah 1, verse 12. Then the angel of the Lord answered and said, O Jehovah of hosts, how long wilt thou not have mercy on Jerusalem and on the cities of Judah, against which thou hast had indignation these 70 years? Well, he's referencing it back to the Babylonian captivity of 70 years. When this starts out, it says the 8th month in the 2nd year of Darius came to work. That means they were back in Israel from the Babylonian captivity, perhaps 17 years, something like that. Okay? And in Zechariah 1:13, and Jehovah answered the angel that talked with me with good words and comforting words, comfortable words. So the angel that communed with me said unto me, Cry thou, saying, Thus saith Jehovah of armies, I am jealous for Jerusalem and for Zion with great jealousy. And the next verse, verse 15, is downplayed in the English. It basically is saying he's very angry and furious with the heathen that are at ease. For I was but a little displeased, and they helped forward the affliction. They made things harder on Israel. Therefore, thus saith Jehovah, I am returned to Jerusalem with mercies. My house shall be built in it. The word would probably better be translated established in it. Saith Jehovah of hosts, and a line shall be stretched forth upon Jerusalem. Okay, so it says, I am returned to Jerusalem with mercies. Okay, now I'm going to read you 2 Maccabees 2. I gotta find the verse, it'll be in there. It's 2 Maccabees 2, verse 7, which when Jeremiah perceived, he blamed them, saying, As for that place, the cave where he put the altar of incense, the ark, and the tabernacle, it shall be unknown until the time that God gathereth his people again together and receive them unto mercy. I am returned unto Jerusalem with mercy. Very soon now. So it's a likely occurrence that we have the tabernacle first, and then we do the offerings and sacrifices, and the blessings of the Lord come on us, and then we get the temple. And that is speculative on my part. Now, the other things we see in Malachi 3 read like this. Behold, I will send my Malach messenger, and he shall prepare the way before me. That's Elijah. And Adonai, whom you seek, shall suddenly come to his temple, even the messenger. So that's the glory of God of Israel going in the temple. Even the messenger of the covenant, that's Elijah, which you delight in, behold, he shall come, saith the Lord. But who may abide the day of his coming, and who shall stand when he appeareth? For he is like a refiner's fire, and like a fuller's soap. And he shall sit as a refiner and purifier of silver, and he shall purify the sons of Levi, and purge them as gold and silver. They may offer unto Jehovah an offering in righteousness. Then shall the offering of Judah and Jerusalem be pleasant unto the Lord, as in the days of old, as in the former years. Well, this means the blessings of the Lord are going to come on the people. Now, let's start getting into this in Ezekiel 43. Afterward, remember, the glory God of Israel comes suddenly to the temple. Afterward, he brought me to the gate, even the gate that looketh towards the east. That's towards the Mount of Olives. And behold, the glory of the God of Israel, that's Michael, the angel who Jehovah put his name in, came from the way of the east. And his voice was like a noise of many waters, and the earth shined with his glory. Now, this is going to be quite a thing. You know, on a 10 scale, this is like a 17, you know. And it was according to the appearance of the vision, which I saw, even according to the vision that I saw when I came to destroy the city. And the visions were like the vision that I saw by the river Kabar, and I fell upon my face. He saw the glory of God of Israel when he was in the Babylonian captivity. Ezekiel, Daniel, I think Jeremiah, Zechariah were pretty much contemporaries. And the glory of Jehovah came into the house by the way of the gate, whose prospect is towards the east. The house is the Beit, which is the temple. It's called the house because this temple, the glory of God of Israel, resides in it. With the tabernacle, he met with Moses and Aaron by the mercy seat. He didn't live there. It was collapsible. It moved around. He went into Solomon's temple briefly to anoint it with the glory cloud. He never lived there. He never went in once to Zerubbabel's temple or Herod's temple. So, has to be Ezekiel's temple, as we refer to it. But because this temple, as we learned in Ezekiel 37, when we have this temple, the heathen know that God sanctified or made holy Israel. This temple would come down from heaven. Otherwise, how do you explain that? If a bunch of rabbis smack together a temple, the heathen are going to say, oh, look at this. God made Israel holy? Come on. If it comes down from heaven and looks like it came down from heaven, yeah, then they'll get that way. It's not New Jerusalem. I know the difference, and there is no millennial temple. New Jerusalem has no temple. That comment is found. It's written in Revelation 21. So the Spirit took me up and brought me into the inner court. And behold, the glory of the God of Israel filled the house. And I heard him speaking unto me out of the house. And the man stood by me, and he said unto me, Son of man, the place of my throne and the place of the soles of my feet, where I will dwell in the midst of the children of Israel forever. And my holy name shall the house of Israel no more defile, neither they nor their kings, by their whoredom, worshiping other gods, spiritual whoredom, nor by the carcasses of their kings. They buried the various prominent people near the temple area, nor by the carcasses of their kings in their high places. In their setting of their threshold by my thresholds, and their post by my post, and the wall between me and them, they have even defiled my holy name by their abominations that they have committed. Wherefore I have consumed them in my anger. Now let them put away their whoredom and the carcasses of their kings far from me, and I will dwell in the midst of them forever. Now he gave them a condition. Keep the carcasses away from me, and I'll dwell in the midst of you forever. Thou, son of man, show the house to the house of Israel, that they may be ashamed of their iniquity, their lawlessness, and let them measure the pattern. Now, we're never given architectural instructions to build this temple because we don't build it. Here he talks about we're shown the pattern. Let's go further. And if they be ashamed of all that they have done, show them the form of the house, the layout, and the fashion thereof, and the goings out thereof, and the coming in thereof, and all the forms thereof, and all the ordinances thereof, and all the forms thereof, and all the laws thereof, and write it in their sight, that they may keep the whole form thereof, and all the ordinances thereof, and do them. So all we're given about this temple is the rules, how it operates, how you go in, how you go out, what goes on. And we're given a rough layout of it, so when we see the temple, we understand how to obey the laws and the ordinances of the temple. We're never given construction plans like Moses was with the tabernacle. Never. This is the law of the house, okay? And it says Torah. This is the Torah of the house, of the Beit house, upon the top of the mountain. The whole limit thereof round about shall be most holy. Behold, this is the law of the house. Now, the mountain's not there. It's Mount Zion. Some armies thousands of years ago dismantled it with shovels, pickaxes, whatever, right? It's going to come back. Now people say, oh, they're building a second temple. They're not. When you see them building Mount Zion again, then you might have something to talk about. But they're not doing that, and they never will. God will bring the mountain back, in my opinion. This government in Israel, all the governments since 1948, are not with Jehovah. They don't want a temple. And these are the measures of the altar after the cubits. Now, we're given the cubit directions, how to build the altar, because that we build. But the altar is outside the temple in the inner courtyard. It's actually southeast of the steps to the eastern entrance of the temple. Not a great distance away. And that's where the altar is. And we built that. And from the bottom upon the ground, even to the lower settle, shall be 2 cubits, and the breadth 1 cubit. See, it's giving you the dimensions to build it. And the altar shall be 12 cubits long, 12 broad, square in the 4 square thereof. A cubit goes from the center of the palm to the elbow. So I don't know, maybe it's 15, 18 inches, something like that. So the altar's not so huge. And in 43 verse 18 it says, and he said unto me, Son of man, thus saith Adonai Jehovah, these are the ordinances of the altar in the day when they shall make it to offer burnt offerings thereon and to sprinkle blood thereon. We make it. The word is 62:13. It means to fashion. It means to make it. I'm not going to read everything about this. I'm going to go to the next chapter. We'll go through it. And I want to highlight some things for you. He brought me back the way of the gate of the outward sanctuary, which looketh towards the east, and it was shut. Then said the Lord unto me, This gate shall be shut, it shall not be opened, and no man shall enter in by it, because Jehovah Elohim, Yisrael, the glory God of Israel, hath entered in by it, therefore shall it be shut. It is for the prince that he shall sit in it to eat bread before Jehovah. He shall enter by the way of the porch of that gate, and shall go out by the way of the same. See, he's giving them the law of the house. Now, this is the anointed prince from the line of David. That's in the next temple, because the high priest has been done away with. He's been replaced with the line of David. Now, this is only going to be the case till Yeshua comes with New Jerusalem, and then it'll be different again. Then brought he me the way of the north gate before the house, and I looked, and behold, the glory of Jehovah filled the house of Jehovah. See, the glory of the Kabod Jehovah filled the house of Jehovah. You got to get your cast of characters down. And I fell upon my face. And Jehovah said unto me, Son of man, mark well, and behold with thine eyes, and hear with thy ears all that I say unto thee concerning the ordinances of the house of Jehovah, and all the laws thereof, and mark well the entering in of the house with every going forth of the sanctuary. And thou shalt say to the rebellious, thou shalt say to rebellious, even to the house of Israel, thus saith Adonai Jehovah, O you house of Israel, let it suffice you of all your abominations, in that you have brought into my sanctuary strangers, uncircumcised in heart and uncircumcised in flesh, to be in my sanctuary, to pollute it, even my house, when you offer my bread, the fat and the blood, and they have broken my covenant because of all your abominations. And you have not kept the charge of my holy things, but you have set keepers of my charge in my sanctuary for yourselves. They were so lazy. Thus saith Adonai Jehovah, no stranger, uncircumcised in heart, nor uncircumcised in flesh, shall enter into my sanctuary of any stranger that is among the children of Israel. So he's talking about strangers, not Israelites. And the Levites that are gone far away from me when Israel went astray, which went astray away from me after their idols. They shall even bear their lawlessness. They shall be ministers in my sanctuary. And their word for sanctuary is mikdash, the temple, having charge at the gate of the house, and ministering to the house. They shall slay the burnt offerings and the sacrifice for the people, and they shall stand before them to minister unto them, because they ministered unto them before their idols, and because the house of Israel, and caused the house of Israel to fall into lawlessness. Therefore have I lifted up my hand against them, saith Adonai Jehovah, and they shall bear their lawlessness, and they shall not come near unto me to do the office of a priest, a Kohanim, descendant of Aaron, unto me, nor to come near to any of my holy things in the most holy place, but the holy, but they shall bear their shame and their abomination which they have committed. But I will make them keepers of the charge of the house for all the service thereof, for all that shall be done. But the priests, the Kohanim, the Levites, you see, all Kohanim or priests are Levites, but not all Levites are Kohanim. But the priests, the Levites, the sons of Zadok, that kept the charge of my sanctuary. So he's referencing, there's Levites, and then some Levites are Kohanim, descendants of Aaron, and some of those are Zadokites. But possibly all the, when you read this, maybe all the priests are Zadokites, I'm not sure. That they kept the charge of my sanctuary. When the children of Israel went astray from me, they shall come near to me to minister unto me, and they shall stand before me to offer unto me the fat and the blood, saith Adonai Jehovah. They shall enter into my mikdash, my temple, and they shall come near to me, to my table, the glory God of Israel, to minister unto me, and they shall keep my charge. And it shall come to pass that when they enter in at the gates of the inner court, they shall be clothed with linen garments, and no wool shall come upon them, whilst they minister in the gates of the inner court and within. They shall have linen bonnets upon their heads, and they shall have linen breeches, pants, upon their loins. They shall not gird themselves with anything that causes sweat. Wool would cause sweat. Linen is extremely good for not sweating. And when they go forth into the utter court, the outer courtyard, even unto the outer court, to the people, they shall put off their garments wherein they ministered, and lay them in the holy chambers, and they shall put on other garments, and they shall not sanctify the people with their garments. I guess the garments get some kind of a reaction or treated in some way from the glory of God of Israel. Neither shall they shave their heads, nor suffer their locks to grow long. They shall only poll their heads. So that means they grab their hair by their fist, and everything that sticks out beyond the fist, they cut it off. That's as long as the hair goes. So these churchianity pictures of Yeshua with hair down to here are obviously bogus, because Yeshua wouldn't break the law, and he would never let his hair grow that long. So that's the Jesus of the church, not Yeshua HaMashiach of Jehovah, his father. Neither shall any priest drink wine when they enter into the inner court. No drunkards, please. Neither shall they take for their wives a widow nor her that is put away, but they shall take maidens of the seed of the house of Israel. Now that means they could take an unmarried woman from any of the tribes. Or a widow that had a priest before. So if a woman was married to a priest, a Kohanim, and he died, then he could marry her. And they shall teach my people the difference between the holy and the profane. Now, the churchianity opinion is the word of the Lord shall flow forth from the nations and maybe someday get to Israel if they're ever around long enough. No. They shall teach my people the difference between the holy and the profane and cause them to discern between the unclean and the clean. Who? The priests, the Kohanim. And in controversy they shall stand in judgment, and they shall judge it according to my judgment, and they shall keep my law and my statutes in all mine assemblies. Assembly is 4150. It's a moed, which is the more like the feast days, the holidays, you know. And they shall hallow my Sabbaths. And they shall come at no dead person to defile themselves, but for mother or the son, or for the daughter, for the brother, or for sister. That hath no husband, they may defile themselves. And after he is cleansed, they shall reckon unto him 7 days. And in the day that, and then this could mean they're going to have the red heifer, but it also talks about a fountain of water to cleanse Israel from their sins in Zechariah 13. So I'm not even sure we're going to use the red heifers again. Or why would we have this fountain of water in Zechariah 13 to cleanse us of the sins if the red heifer water does that with the ashes of the red heifer? So it's a curious conversation, isn't it? And in the day that he goeth into the sanctuary unto the inner court to minister in the sanctuary, he shall offer his sin offering, saith Adonai Jehovah, and it shall be unto them for an inheritance. I am their inheritance, and you shall give them no possession in Israel. I am their possession. So they don't get a piece of agricultural land. They get a piece of land to put a house on by the temple. But they don't need agricultural land because they're not supposed to grow crops. They minister to the Lord, and the people give to the Lord, and they get their money that way. They get their support that way. Got it? They shall eat the meat offering and the sin offering and the trespass offering, and every dedicated thing in Israel shall be theirs. There you go. And the first of all, the first fruit of all things, and every oblation, all of every oblation of all and every sort of your oblation shall be the priest, the Kohanim. You shall also give unto the priest the first of your dough. Now, when it says dough, it means bread, not money. Just thought I'd check. That he may cause the blessing to rest in thy house. So the priest can bless the house. The priest shall not eat of anything that is dead of itself, or torn, it means like a wolf or a lion ripped it up, whether it be fowl or beast. Now we're in Ezekiel 45. Moreover, when you shall divide by lot the land for inheritance, you shall offer an oblation unto the Lord, a holy portion of the land. The length shall be the length of 25,000 reeds, and the breadth thereof, and he describes it. And this is an offering I think what he's describing here is in verse 5, and the 25,000 of length and the 10,000 of breadth shall also the Levites, English stinks, shall also the Levites, the ministers of the house, have for themselves for a possession for 20 chunks. See, the Kohanim are getting a certain amount of land, and so the Levites. And you shall appoint the possession of the city. He's given you the land for the city. And then it says, and a portion shall be for the prince on the one side and on the other side, and of the oblation of the holy portion, and of the possession of the city before the oblation of the holy portion, and before the possession of the city from the west side westward, and from the east side eastward, and the length over against one of the portion from the west border unto the east border in the land shall be his possession in Israel, and my princes shall no more oppress my people. See, there'll be an anointed prince from the line of David in there. We read he's cut off in Daniel 9, verse 26, but not for himself. That's not Yeshua, that's the anointed prince. Thus saith, Yeshua is the king of Israel, high priest, the order of Melchizedek, and when he comes with New Jerusalem, he'll be such. And he is such, but he's not here now. He can't get cut off unless he's here. It's not Yeshua. Let it suffice you, O princes of Israel, remove violence and spoil and execute judgment. Okay. And he talks about measurement. He says, and the shekel shall be 20 gerahs, 20 shekels, 25 shekels, 15 shekels shall be your manna. And the money is silver and gold. That's what we're going to be using. Hard currency. And I'm going to keep moving through this because We'll jump over to the next chapter 46. Thus saith Adonai Yehovah, the gate of the inner court that looketh towards the east shall be shut 6 working days, but on the Sabbath it shall be opened, and in the day of the new moon it shall be opened. And the prince shall enter by the way of the porch of that gate without. And it talks about he shall prepare his burnt offering, his peace offering. He shall worship at the threshold of the gate. So that's obviously not Yeshua worship. Then he shall go forth, but the gate shall not be shut until the evening. That's when the day changes. Likewise, so after the Shabbat is over, they shut the gate. Likewise, the people of the land, Ha'eretz, shall worship at the door of this gate before Jehovah in the Sabbaths and in the new moons. So this angel that God put his name Jehovah in can receive offerings, worship even, prayers. He takes the place of Jehovah down on earth because Jehovah is so holy. If he came down, the whole place would either burn up, blow up, fracture, I don't know. But you could imagine it would be pretty bad. And the burnt offering that the prince shall offer unto Jehovah in the Sabbath day shall be 6 lambs without blemish and a ram without blemish. See, I'm not going to go through all the offerings and stuff. We'll have plenty of time to deal with that when we get there soon. See, the age of grace is over. The age of grace kicked in during the punishment period, when there would be no temple, starting in like 70 AD, I guess you could say, or maybe when Yeshua was resurrected or killed. But anyway, there would be no temple, and you couldn't observe the temple because there was no temple, so you were under grace. But the age of grace didn't give you permission to commit murder, adultery, drunkenness, and so forth, right? So you got to take this into a correct balance. It got you out from under the following of the law, because it says if you break one part of the law, you broke it all. And without a priesthood and without a temple, you certainly couldn't be following the law. But the work of Yeshua never says that you'll have the blessings of the law. No, the blessings of the law come when we follow the law. You could read Deuteronomy, I think, starting in 28 to the end of the book, and you'll get a good handle on this. And the sin offering, where they shall bake the meat offering. Okay, now we get into Ezekiel 47. Afterward he brought me again into the door of the house, and behold, waters issued out from under the threshold of the house, eastward, for the forefront of the house stood towards the east. And the waters came down from under, from the right side of the house, that's the next temple, at the south side of the altar. Now, this is not the tree of life, the water of life in New Jerusalem. It's never referred to as that. Okay? We do read in Zechariah 13, I think it's verse 1, in that day there shall be a fountain open to the house of David and to the inhabitants of Jerusalem for sins and for uncleanness. Now, the word for fountain is 4726. Mikar, it could be a spring of, let's see how Strong's puts it into English. So the fountain, we covered that. Okay, so now it could be the water coming out from under the temple, could be the fountain. Okay? 47:1. And the waters issue out from under the threshold of the house, eastward for the forefront of the house, stood towards the east, and the waters came down from under the right side of the house, which is the temple, and the south side. Then brought me out of the way of the gate northward, and led me about the way without unto the utter gate of the way that looketh eastward, and behold, there ran out waters on the right side. And when the man that had the line in his hand went forth eastward, he measured 1,000 cubits, and he brought me through the waters. The waters were to the ankle, and then it goes on, and then the water gets deeper, and then finally he's just swimming in the water. And he said unto me, Son of man, hast thou seen this? Then he brought me and caused me to return to the brink of the river. Now when I had returned, behold, at the bank of the river were very many trees on the one side and on the other. Then said he unto me, These waters issue out towards the east country, and go down unto the desert, and go into the sea, which being brought forth into the sea, the waters shall be healed. In other words, it's going to get the salt water into fresh water. And it shall come to pass, or they call it sweet water, is fresh water. It shall come to pass that everything that liveth, which moveth whithersoever, the river shall come and shall live, and there shall be a very great multitude of fish, because these waters shall come thither, for they shall be healed, and everything shall live whither the river cometh. And it shall come to pass that the fishers shall stand upon it from En-Gedi, that's up by the Galilee, even unto Angelaim. They shall be a place to be spread forth nets. Their fish shall be according to their kind, as the fish of the great sea, exceeding many. So they're going to be like the Mediterranean Ocean fish. But the miry places thereof and the marshes thereof shall not be healed, for they shall be given to salt. Well, we all like salt. And by the river upon the bank thereof, on this side and on that side, shall grow all trees for meat, food, whose leaf shall not fade, neither shall the fruit thereof be consumed. It shall bring forth new fruit according to his month, because their waters they issued out of it from the mikdash, from the temple, and the fruit thereof shall be for meat, and the leaf thereof for medicine. So there's going to be healing herbs. That's what it says. I mean, maybe it's for the goyim, the heathen. Thus saith, I think it is, thus saith Adonai Yehovah, this shall be the border whereby you shall inherit the land. According to the 12 tribes of Israel, Joseph shall have 2 portions. You shall inherit it, one as well as another, concerning the which I lifted up my hand, to give it unto your fathers. This is the land that our fathers had, and this land shall fall unto you for inheritance. Now pay attention. Fall unto you for inheritance? What does fall mean? How about like you died in battle, fall? Shall fall to you for inheritance. The word for fall is nefal. Wait a second. It means like fall into the hand of. Could also mean overthrow. It has the connotation of war. Okay, it has the connotation of war. Shall fall unto you for inheritance. That's our inheritance. When do you get your inheritance back? Jubilee year of recompenses. And this shall be the border of the land towards the north side, from the Great Sea, Mediterranean, the way of Hethlon, and we covered that. That's the, up there southeast or something of Tripoli, or east of Tripoli in Lebanon, quite a ways into Lebanon. And it goes on and it keeps describing the different borders and stuff like this. And let's read the last 3 verses of 47. So shall you divide this land unto you according to the tribes of Israel. The word for tribes is shevet. Which is a curious word. It means a rod. That could be a stick. Okay. And it shall come to pass that you shall divide it by lot for an inheritance unto you and to the strangers, the foreigners, the strangers that sojourn among you, which shall beget children among you, and they shall be unto you as born in the country among the children of Israel. They shall have inheritance with you among the tribes of Israel. So the strangers, these are those that are in Yeshua, that are not native-born Israelites. They come sojourn, they make the second Exodus with the Israelites to Israel, and they are to be treated as if they were born in Israel, and they get an equal share of the land as their inheritance, just like an Israelite, basing it on the tribe that they came to Israel with and sojourned with or hung out with or lived with. Do you got this? So this explains all Israel shall be saved. And it shall come to pass that in what tribe the stranger sojourneth, there shall you give him his inheritance, saith Jehovah. Okay? And then 48 gives you more geographical layout of the land and so forth. Let me look at the chat with an eye towards garbage throwing out. Okay, I've been doing good by blocking them. We get less and less garbage in here. So I hope you got something out of this today. I'm trying to, give it to you from different directions so you're not confused or bewildered by it. And so you can definitely expect the next temple will come down from heaven, but we will build the altar. Also, we're going to use cedars of Lebanon and other types of trees and plants to decorate the temple. And I believe we build the fence around the next temple, which also has 12 gates, each gate named after one of the tribes of Israel, like New Jerusalem, but not the same thing. So if you were not incorporated into Israel, into one of the tribes, what gate would you go into? You'd be looking for a Baptist gate or an Assemblies of God gate or a Lutheran gate, and they don't exist. So how are you going to get in? All Israel shall be saved. I've opened that up to you today. Don't be looking for the church. Broad and wide is the way, and many find it. Straight and narrow is the way, and few be to find it. Okay, so Moshe, please pray for me and my wife for peace, safety, protection, joy, healing of our bodies. Pray for our animals and pets, which are all rescues, to be happy, healthy, and whole. Please hit the like button, please subscribe, or please post in the chat or interact with us somehow. So it helps the positioning in YouTube if you subscribe and hit the like button. And pray for better videos. And pray we don't have to go into the bomb shelters. And pray for the peace of Yerushalayim. And I send my Shabbat Shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach. And I'm out, guys, and I really hope you got something out of this. I try, and I'm out. Thank you.